speaker after I share that we are over 50 sessions strong. We've had over 85 guest speakers. We started with 161 members. We're now 2,000 plus. And I know we talk a lot about referring friends to us, and we do encourage you to go out to your LinkedIn community. They don't need to be in transition. We welcome everybody. Sometimes people who aren't necessarily looking for a job might find the sense of community and the information that we share helpful and supportive to them. So, Jimmy, are we ready?
We're already been recording. Yes, I just started the recording for the past few seconds.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
All right, so it is with great pleasure that I am introducing Michelle Burgess, MBA. Michelle is an author, HR strategist, strategic PR and communications leader, brand reputation, culture transformation, leadership developer, and focused on HR innovation. She comes to us with over 30 years of experience in operations, brand strategy, public relations, leadership development, and HR organizational transformation. Michelle helps organizations and individuals lead with purpose, communicate with clarity, and build cultures that last. She's a lifelong builder of people, processes, teams, and ideas. Currently serving as Director of HR Innovation and Inclusive Practices at Coca-Cola, Southwest Beverages. Michelle leads the company's first enterprise-wide people and culture strategy. She also advises the global parent company, Arca Continental, operating across Mexico, Ecuador, Argentina, Peru, and the US, offering critical insight on workforce dynamics, aligning brand, culture, and leadership to drive sustainable growth. Michelle's work helps organizations navigate the intersectionality of HR innovation, people operations, public brand perception, internal engagement, and business impact. So with that, Michelle, we'd like to start off by asking you if you would be willing to please share one piece of insider knowledge that many job seekers might not be aware of, but would find incredibly helpful in their job search.
Thank you, Alice. I appreciate you for the introduction. I think I'm going to take you on the road with me. So thank you, and congratulations to you. Thank you. I thank you for the question, because I'm really passionate about helping people thrive, not just in life, but in the workplace. And of course, first, we need to get you into the workplace. So I want to recognize, I know that navigating the application process can be a challenge. So the insight, that I would first want to offer is that you got to think about, what recruiters and, their role, their responsibility, and even depending at what level that they're recruiting for. It is so important that, especially when you factor in, anything that might be automated, but it's really important that when you're looking at that job posting and whatever those qualifications are, if you can get those on there, it's just, it's the minimum, right? Be sure that those match those keywords even for your resume. And it can be daunting because it might often mean that you have to have several, resumes. But sometimes when you're applying, when you get to that line that says, it talks about salary, if there's ever an opportunity to put in a 0, I'm going to tell you to put in a 0 or the lowest end. And the reason I say that is because as we're sitting in the other side and I'm seeing organizations are automating, you can automatically be disqualified because the system will be set up to have a max for a salary requirement. So you can have an opportunity to negotiate later, but first we got to get you through the door to even be considered, for the role. And then when you're having that conversation with, if you get to the place where you are having that conversation with the recruiter, because remember, for your skill set, it's likely this recruiter hasn't done the job, the role, that they're recruiting for. And so the other insight that you have, you think about your expertise and wanting to ensure all of your expertise is on there. They're looking for the minimums, even just to get you through. And then, of course, you can have the rest on your resume. But I can't tell you how important it is to ensure that we get you to the next end. And that is the easiest field that organizations can automate, is the salary. And unfortunately, not every state or organization has transparency laws where they have to be transparent. So when you're automating that, there's a max, which doesn't necessarily set you up to win in that area if you don't know what even you're competing against. I would say that having the lower end of that, the 0 on there, because if you have a category and it's beyond, the tracking system will automatically disqualify you when they have one, or the recruiter will, because it's over. You can type in, yes, you type in negotiable, or the phrases that you're going to use with them is, based on my qualifications and experience, I would expect to be paid at the higher end of your salary, your budget. You don't want to be the first one to answer when someone says, what are your requirements? Because you don't know what's been budgeted. And if it's lower, then you could end up coming into the organization low. Because if I said, Alice, what are your salary expectations? And you say, oh, I expect 150,000. I might have a budget as a recruiter to hire interview anyone that's interested up to 200. Alice said 150. So she'll probably be really excited if I give her 160, but she'll go into the organization already lower. But really important too, I think, just even the, if you can't hit the basic qualifications, which you have them, but if you don't get that communicated, then even matching those words, then the resume won't even matter at some point, because you're not going to get to the next stage. You'll have an opportunity to go deeper if you can just even get through meeting the requirements through the tracking system. So I hope you find that helpful, because this is really, it's about you, and I want to be sure that I can answer as many as career-driven questions that you have today.
And I'm sure there will be a lot. We have somebody post a question in the chat, and it's, how many resumes are actually looked at by HR and not AI?
Well, it can certainly vary, upon the company, because many organizations, some haven't automated, right? So let's say if you haven't automated, it may even be on a first come, first serve, where you might even be batching the applications, where you're just screening as they come in. And if you meet those minimum requirements and qualifications, to be able to move forward. So when they talk about the early bird gets the worm, it can be really important, especially if it's manual. Applicant tracking systems can certainly manage more, but all those parameters are set up across the organization, because they can even set it to where we're only going to, based on the data that they have, they might say, oh, well, we're only going to let's look at 100, or let's look at 50, or let's look at 20. So it really depends on how many are coming through, but they usually set their own parameters, and then that can even move. Great question.
Thank you. Okay, so this is a time we open it up to the audience. So Jimmy, if you would like to end the recording. And I see that Crystal is up first, and then Shelley.